I'm Luiza. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking about rentals and rental properties. A lot of you wrote me and asked me about rental properties, how are the rents, if in 2022 the rents are sky high, and most of all you are asking me to help you with your rental property because the most of you are from outside the EU and you need a rental contract in order to get your visa. And I thought it would be a good idea to make a video about rentals and about what you should pay attention to when you are renting, because in a hurry of obtaining your visa you might make some compromises then later in life you will find annoying. So it would be best to know these things before renting. And of course this video is also useful for responding of some of the question. Should I use a realtor? Maybe I should save some money and find a rental for myself. May I rent a property if I'm not in Portugal? What about the documents? What about the prices? There are a lot of questions on this subject and this video is long overdue. So let's start. Let's start with the most common question. What should you do? You should rent through an agent or you should find your property alone. Even if you are not in Portugal, you might think that you are going to find a property on Idealista, on Airbnb or on different other sites. So what is best to choose? You should always choose what fits you best. So of course what is best is going to vary from person to person, but let's see the pros and cons of using a realtor. Of course the con of using a realtor is the fact that you will have to pay him, and this is the reason why everybody thinks of doing this job alone. But if you are starting to looking for a property alone, first and foremost you are going to lose a lot of time. You don't know the area, you don't know Portugal, you don't know Lisbon, Porto or whatever area you are thinking of renting a property, and from the pictures you cannot do a proper assessment. Also, there are a lot of cases when the properties on the sites are not updated. They have false pictures, false advertising, false descriptions and false locations. So they pinpoint the location in totally different area so they could attract more attention for that property. When you actually arrive at the property, you might discover that the bus station is not where it's supposed to be, that maybe that supermarket is further along than it says in the ad, and so on and so forth. So the main pro of using a realtor is that the realtor can assess for himself if the ad is real, if the apartment looks like in the pictures, if the bus station is where it should be, and also he can take you along with him on Skype or on Zoom, and you can see for yourself the apartment. And this is a better option than actually you renting for yourself. Also, if you are working with a realtor can provide other resources like a cleaner, a moving agency, and all sorts of contacts that you are going to need if you don't know Portugal, if you don't know anyone in Portugal. So it's kind of like your point of contact here. He can do for you a lot more than just help you renting the apartment. Let's not forget that a realtor is going to save you a lot of time, and a good realtor is not going to try to shuffle down your throat their properties, and they are going to look for a property that is suited for you. So be aware of that. Be sure that you are working with a realtor who understands what area and what budget do you have and strives to find the right property for you, and doesn't try to sell you something that he already has in the portfolio if it doesn't suit you. Also, if you are trying to do this on your own, a lot of people maybe don't speak English or your language, and the realtor would. And also you are going to deal with a lot of agency, you are going to make a lot of phone calls, not everybody works on your schedule, and all in all you are going to have to devote like 2 or 3 or 4 weeks of your life doing only that, talking to people, going to locations and wasting a lot of energy and time. And I know that a lot of people put in balance energy and time, and you have to do that and see what is best for you, to pay the price of a realtor to help you with this, or waste or just invest this energy of yours because you simply don't have the budget. But for those who do have the budget for a realtor, it's good to know that a realtor will work for that money. A good realtor will work for that money and will save you a lot of trouble, especially in a place, in a country that you don't know, and especially in an area that you don't know. Maybe you've been to in vacation in Lisbon, Porto, or in an area you want to rent, but it's not the same as actually knowing the real estate market. Now let's talk about what if you should rent a furnished apartment or an unfurnished apartment. Well, this is quite a question because in Portugal, most of the apartments are renting unfurnished. So the norm is that the apartments are unfurnished. Some of the apartments are furnished, and in Portugal, furnished may mean a lot of things. May mean fully furnished or just some piece of furniture that the landlord just happens to let in the apartment. If you are renting a furnished apartment, of course it would be slightly higher in price. But what means unfurnished? So unfurnished means that you have typically all the furniture in the kitchen or the appliances, the bathroom is fit, and you don't have anything in the living room or in the bedrooms or on the terraces. So this is unfurnished. Also, if you are going for a furnished apartment and you are going to see the apartment while the tenants, the actual tenants that are now in the apartment are there, make sure to ask what furniture is theirs and what is going to remain in the apartment, because this is a common practice that the landlords make pictures of how the apartment looks now, but actually that furniture is not theirs. So make sure to ask that, and when you're actually renting the apartment, make sure to make an inventory of the furniture that is in the apartment. And my advice would be to also make an inventory if the apartment is rented unfurnished, just to put in that piece of paper that you didn't receive any furniture. So it's not that the Portuguese people are scammers or something like that, but it's best to have the documents. A written document signed by both parties is the only thing that is going to help you in case that is a litigation. Typically, an unfurnished apartment is a lot easier to find than a furnished one, just because this is how the real estate market in Portugal is. Typically, the apartments are rented unfurnished. What is the custom about security deposits in Portugal when you are renting? Well, a security deposit is there to help the landlord be protected from any damage that you might do to the apartment. This security deposit is going to be paid at the start of the rent and is going to be paid back to you at the finish of the contract, minus all the damages that you might have done in the apartment. The amount of the security deposit is based on the monthly rental, but is also based on the location of the apartment, how renovated the apartment is. So basically, how much damage could you do to that apartment? If it's a newer apartment and fully renovated and it's a prime location in a bigger city, the security deposit is going to be bigger. If it's, I don't know, maybe an unfurnished apartment or an unrenovated one, the security deposit may be equivalent of 1 or 2 rents. But not the security deposit is your biggest problem. Your biggest problem may be guarantees. So typically, when you are renting an apartment, the landlord is going to ask of you a guarantor, and this guarantor has to be Portuguese based or actually a Portuguese person. This is because you are a stranger, you don't have any credit in this country, they don't know anything about you, so they ask for a Portuguese person to vouch for you, or at least a Portuguese based person. There's a workaround around this. If you are offering the landlord the equivalent of 6-month rent or maybe even 12-month rate, the landlord might come around and see you as a trustworthy person or just a person who worth the risk because he's getting so much money in advance, and this is perceived like you are a serious person. If you have the money, try like that. If you don't, try to speak to the realtor, and this is another pro of having a realtor. Speak to the realtor to vouch for you or to find a person to vouch for you, but know that typically this is a requirement when you are renting. The collection of the rent is typically made until the 8th of the month for the next month, so the rent is paid in advance. You should take this in consideration for your first months when you are moving in, because you are going to have to pay the deposit, you have to pay the rent in advance, and on top of that you have to have a guarantor to vouch for you. Bear in mind that the rent is subject to annual increases. However, the landlord should advise you in writing with at least 30 days in advance that he is going to increase your rent. All these details should be written in your contract. So that contract is very important. The landlord should register the contract between you and him at the finanzas, and all these details we are talking about here should be stated in the contract. If you are not good with contracts, pay someone to look at the contract, pay a lawyer, because there are a lot of people who had a lot of problems with contracts. They thought they are just going to rent for 6 or 12 months until they will establish themselves in Portugal, and then they are going to buy a house. This is the situation that most of you who are watching this video are in, but make no mistake that if you don't pay someone to look at the contract, a lawyer or at least a Portuguese friend who knows about the state of the real estate market, who actually knows how to speak and write and read Portuguese, you can find yourself in all sorts of situations, maybe legal situation, maybe you are going to lose money because you didn't understand the contract, and so on and so forth. But talking about the contract, also an important thing to understand is when you can get out of the contract. So when is it legal as per your contract to renounce the contract or maybe terminate the contract? Let's say that you come to Portugal, you are staying there 1 month or 2 months, and you don't get along with the neighbors, or you don't get along with the landlord, and you want to terminate the contract, and you are going to find out that you can't. Or of course you can leave the premises, you can leave the apartment, but you have to pay the rent. So these are things that you should understand before signing the contract. Usually a contract is made for 12 months. Of course, there are short-term rent contracts, but you are going to pay a lot more for those. So typically a normal contract is 12 months, and if the parties don't agree otherwise, the contract is renewed automatically. So pay attention to that also. Notify the landlord well in advance if you don't want to renew the contract, and always consult a lawyer, and always ask a Portuguese friend about your situation, because they know better. Let's not forget about the utility bills. As a person who is renting the apartment, you are going to be in charge of the utility bills. This is typically the norm. Of course, there are situations when the rent includes these utility bills, but typically this is not the case. So you are going to be in charge of those, and these utility bills are the electricity, the gas, depending on what you are renting, of course the TV and the internet, and if you are staying in a condominium, there might be fees for the pool or the maintenance of the green space. So these are kind of the utility bills that you are going to be in charge of. After receiving the keys, the first thing you should do is check the meters, because if you don't check the meters and write down the numbers, you might find yourself in the situation to pay for the consumption of the previous people who stayed in that location. So make sure you write down those numbers, check it with the landlord, put it also in writing, maybe in that inventory or in the contract. Just put it down and sign both of you, so you don't find in the situation to pay for the consumption of others. So when you should start the search regarding renting an apartment? When you need it right away. So today you are needing an apartment, today you are going to start, or well in advance? Well, typically the apartments are put on the market like 30 to 45 days prior to their availability. So if a landlord knows someone is going to be departing like in 30 or 45 days, they already put the apartment on the market. And depending on the area you want to rent, like if you want to rent in Lisbon, Porto, in a major area, well, you should start your search well in advance. Why? Because the good locations are snatched immediately, and if it's an offer or a bargain on the market, that offer is not going to be found even on the major sites when you are looking for. So this is another reason why you should use a realtor, so you have access to all these bargains or these offers, these apartments who are not put on the market for everybody to see. But of course you have to pick the right realtor for that. So start the search well in advance, narrow down your areas. If you are in Portugal, go and walk the streets, look at the buildings. But of course, a lot of you are not in Portugal, so you can, maybe use Google View. I did that when I was looking for properties. Use everything at your disposal to learn as much as you can about the area and even about the building that you are thinking of renting. Expect that the realtor would find your property it can find your property in 2 days, 2 or 3 days, but expect a reasonable time, like a minimum of 2 weeks, to find you the suitable property for you. But you should start your search well in advance, like 30 to 45 days. Let's say you found the property, now you want to rent it, you want to sign that contract. What are the documents that you need when you are signing a rental agreement? The first thing that you need is a NIF, a Portuguese NIF. We can help you with that. You know about border, please check the description. We can help you obtain a NIF and a bank account online. If you need those information, they are all in the description, along with a link to purchase this service. So the first thing, you are going to need a Portuguese NIF, an ID, of course. You are going to need proof of payslips or tax declaration, so the landlord can see that you have the money to pay the rent and you are a credible person. And don't forget about the guarantor. You need a person, a Portuguese person or a person established in Portugal to vouch for you. So valid ID, passport, a Portuguese NIF, tax references or payslips if you are working in Portugal, but you maybe not, so maybe something from your work to demonstrate your income, and a guarantor. So this is what you need in order to sign that contract, to be able to rent the property. Leave me in the comments if this video was useful, if now you have a better understanding about what you need to rent a property. Leave me in the comments if you think you should use a realtor or not. Leave me in the comments if you rented a property and you did it all by yourself. Other people may benefit from your expertise. If you need a trusted realtor in the Lisbon, Porto, Cascais, Sintra area, drop me an email. I can recommend you someone. And any question you might have, leave it in the comments and I will happily provide an answer if I know the answer. Until next time, thank you and have a good one. Bye!